Switches and push buttons are common components that control circuits. Switches and push buttons are placed in circuits to control current flow in the circuit. Although both control circuits, switches and push buttons are used for different purposes. Let's examine the differences between the two. Switches are identified in terms of poles and throws. The switch shown here is a single pole, single throw switch. Push buttons operate spring-loaded electrical contacts. The electrical contacts change when the button is pushed, and return to their original position when the button is released. The push-button contacts are identified by their electrical state before changing. A push button with an open contact is shown here. The contact is closed when the button is manually pushed. The contacts are identified as normally open, abbreviated NO. The ladder diagram for a normally open push button is shown here. The diagram indicates that the contacts are open and will close when manually operated. A push button with a closed contact is shown here. The contact opens when the button is manually pushed. The contacts are identified as normally closed and abbreviated NC. The ladder diagram for a normally closed push button is shown here. The diagram indicates that the contacts are closed and will open when manually operated. Push buttons are typically assembled in two parts: the push button and the contacts. Push buttons come in a wide variety of styles and colors. The push button operates the attached contacts. Push buttons can operate a single contact or multiple contacts. Push button assemblies allow for any combination of normally open or normally closed contacts to be attached. All of the attached contacts are controlled by the push button. Ladder diagrams indicate multiple contacts controlled by single push button with a dashed line between the push button symbols. Another control device that uses normally open and normally closed contacts is a selector switch. Selector switches are identified by the number of positions that can be selected. Shown here is a 2-position selector switch. These are typically used for simple off and on control. Normally open and normally closed contacts are attached to the selector switch. The ladder diagram for a selector switch is shown here. A common selector switch used in automation and motor control systems is a 3-position selector switch. A 3-position selector switch is used for hand-off auto control. A typical 3-position selector switch controls 2 normally open contacts. The 2 contacts are independent of each other and never operate simultaneously. In the off position, both contacts are open. When the hand position is selected, the corresponding normally open contact closes and the other contact remains open. When the auto position is selected, the corresponding normally open contact closes and the other contact remains open. The only time both contacts are open is when the 3-position selector switch is in the off position. The ladder diagram for a 3-position selector switch is shown. The diagram is animated to show the electrical connections for each switch selection. Push buttons and selector switches are integral components of control systems. Circuit interpretation and circuit design of automation and motor control systems require a thorough understanding of push buttons and selector switches.